What we often see is that women will avoid working with colleagues that they don't like, whereas men will join forces to get something done. How many times have you sat there and looked at a group of men sitting around the table who you know hate each other? I mean, you know they hate each other. But they will join together to get something done because that's what the business world is all about. In many cases, the women will not want to sit at that table because if they have an aversion to someone in that group, they're going to sit there and say that they don't want to work with them. So women need to understand that we're playing in a world where in many cases men have been taught to hide their emotions. And quite frankly, most women are not good at doing that. So really all she's sitting there and saying is, you have to know the rules of the game going in. If you're playing basketball and everybody else is playing baseball, then you're going to have some trouble. But if you understand going in what the rules are, then you can adapt yourself. And one of the other very important points that she makes is, you don't have to follow those rules. If you choose to be a renegade, if you choose to blaze your own path, if you choose to do exactly what Gail Evans did, then by all means do that and be happy in doing it. You don't have to play by the rules, but you do have to know what the rules are in order for you to be successful. So those are just a few things that I wanted you to think about today. And quite frankly, the rest of the time I wanted to leave to answer your questions, because I was told we probably had a few. Answer your questions, either on presentation today or on anything else that I can share with you. So, and I really can't see. Here we go. Oh, come on.
There we go.
I work with a lot of intelligent women that could be very successful, but some of them choose not to take that leap into leadership or into partnership, or because that's not their life choice. Do you think men see that as a weakness, that they don't want to take that leap?
Well, I think that's what we were talking about as far as none of these rules are concerned. If women do this because they're comfortable where they are, then there's nothing wrong with that. And men may look at that differently. It's just something that the woman has to understand. You don't live in divine discontent. If you make that choice, then be happy with it. I mean, if you have a job that you really love, there's no reason for you to have to climb the quote corporate ladder, end quote, if you don't want to.
There's one over here.
What was it like working with Donald Trump?
Yeah, there's one. It was very interesting. You can only imagine what you can learn from the man. He literally is a walking, breathing brand, and he lives it. I mean, when you want to talk about somebody who walks the talk, Donald does that. It was sometimes a little bit frustrating for those of us that were running his gaming company to work for him. Donald is, and we all know him as, a real estate mogul, very accomplished, brilliant professional career as far as real estate is concerned. Got into gaming, I believe, in the 1980s. Gaming is very different in terms of real estate play from pure real estate because gaming is very capital intensive. So if you think about a casino, we're always building something new. We're always painting the outside of the building or adding an addition or putting a restaurant in or adding a new lounge, whatever it might be, because so much of our business is repeat business that we always have to give our customers something new in order to refresh our properties so that they come back and visit us again. That's not necessarily the way that it is in commercial real estate. I mean, Donald would buy a building, that building would sit there, you would rent that building out, every once in a while you would paint the halls and replace the carpet, but you really didn't have to invest in the building. So when we would have conversations with Donald about, we really, really need to get back in and spend some money on these 3 properties that you own in Atlantic City, it was sometimes a little bit difficult. So, in many ways, hey, it's a lot of fun, being in a spot like that and being with him. I've been in many motorcades with him, where literally the police are, moving barricades at City Hall so that we could, drive right up to the door. And it's fun stuff. But when you're sitting there and trying to negotiate Donald about getting the capital that you need in order to redo your casino, it's tough. What else?
Okay.
I think I saw him there.
In your 30 years in business, if you could go back and change something and do it differently, what is it that you would change and do differently?
Let me answer that a little bit differently. one of the questions that I get asked a lot is, why do you think you have been successful in your career? And I usually give two responses to that. The first is, I really have never been afraid, and I think one of our speakers earlier was talking about that. I started out in journalism. I entered the gaming industry in public relations. I was working for one of the casinos in 1981 in Atlantic City, working in PR. If you stayed in PR, you would basically look, if you think of your different divisions and silos, if you stayed in PR, you would end up going up the marketing ranks. And I kind of looked around at the gaming industry at the time and I said, there's not a lot of CEOs, COs, whatever it might be, that came out of marketing. So in order for me to make myself more marketable in the future, I'm going to have to take some risks. I'm going to have to get out of my comfort zone, and I'm going to have to change jobs. I'm going to have to do things that I don't have any professional training for and that I've never done before. Because the more breadth that I could give myself in my career, the better off I would be in terms of making myself marketable for the future. And that's exactly what I did. So I worked at 3 different casinos in Atlantic City originally. The one that I worked the longest at was the Tropicana. While I was at the Tropicana for about 12 years, I ran, I think, 15 different departments. Because every opportunity that I was given to learn something new, I took. So when I look back and I look at the kind of decisions that I made, I never had that moment where I sat there and said, gee, I wish I could have done that, because I did it. I mean, I took lateral moves so many times. I took backward moves. I was an executive director. I dropped back down to a director to learn how to run a department. Took pay cuts. Got redlined many, many times in my career. So basically they said no matter how much more responsibility you take on, you're not going to get a raise. I wasn't happy about it, but I was learning. I was expanding my skill set. So those kind of things are very valuable. The second thing is that I learned when I was a journalist how important personal integrity is. Because your name is your stock in trade. So you should never, ever, ever do anything that hurts your credibility. Your handshake should be your professional credibility. And so, again, I don't think that I've ever done anything in my career that would hurt that. So I don't look back necessarily and say I wish I had done something different, because I was always doing something different.
As a female CEO of a large company, do you think that makes your organization a target for other females that are publicly mobile, and/or does that give you a competitive advantage when it comes to recruiting those employees?
I don't know that it gives us a competitive advantage, but certainly I spent a lot of time in Jefferson City from a lobbying perspective. And certainly, when you're talking to lobbyists or legislators or, regulators, certainly when you are a female and you bring that, to whatever it is that you're doing, testimony, whatever it might be, it sets you apart a little bit. I mean, it makes you a little bit different. I don't know that we necessarily attract more females as a result of this, and I don't know that, quite frankly, if I run my company any differently than my predecessor did. Most of my mentors have been men. I think as I look back over my career of 30 years, I think I've only had 1 or 2 female mentors. So I don't know that I run the company any differently, but I think that it does set a very different tone. I have 8,000 employees across the United States in those 15 properties. And I think it sets a very different tone at the line employee level, because it's amazing how many times when I go out and I visit these properties, how someone will come out from behind a buffet line or from behind a hostess stand or a cocktail waitress who's serving drinks and penny slots and come up and just ask if she can shake my hand and say, it really means something to me to work for a company that has a female CEO.
Back here.
I do instruction with the Green Clean Institute all over the world, instructing people on how to clean for health. And we're finding more and more women internationally. Are you there as well?
Not necessarily. Are you talking about green in general?
No, in the workplace, women in higher places internationally.
Oh yeah, it's funny. And again, I kind of go back to that glass ceiling comment. People sit there and talk about breaking the glass ceiling all the time. What I explain to them is when I started in Atlantic City in 1981, I worked for a woman named Vesta Valentine. Vesta had come from Las Vegas and literally was one of the first female executives in Las Vegas in the 1960s and the 1970s. They're the ones who truly spiked and who broke the glass ceiling. And by the time I left Atlantic City and moved to the Midwest in 1997, I would say that probably half the workforce, mid-management workforce, was women. My daughter just graduated from St. Louis University with a degree in business last year, and at the commencement exercise, her dean was very proud to say that more than 50% of the graduates of the John Cook School of Business were women. So I think what happens is that, when you talk about the spikes that break the glass ceiling, what we're seeing now, because of changes in the workforce, is you're going to see a surge that kind of breaks the glass ceiling just because there are so many women graduating. There is one scary statistic, though, and I heard this when I was a keynote speaker in Las Vegas a few weeks ago. One of my fellow female panelists said that, and I may be a little bit off on what this statistic is, but I think I'm close. We may have the largest number of females that are graduating from business school, but I think within 5 years, 40% of them leave the workforce, and that's a little bit scary. So that we have to work on, but I think getting women in the workforce, we're doing a good job. I don't know how we're doing on time. I'll ask questions till you tell me to leave.
What are you doing to set yourself apart from your competitors whenever the budget may not allow you to have the newest and shiniest thing in your casinos? Excellent
question, because Lord knows we've had to deal with that over the last couple of years. It's been a very tough year. It's been a very tough couple of years for all of us, not just gaming, but all of us who are working in the leisure industry. As leisure dollars became more precious, people became much more discriminating in terms of how they spent those dollars. And so what we had to do is figure out what was most important to the customers. We believe the most important thing that we can do is not guess, but to ask, to go to our customers and simply say, what can we do for you? So I go out twice a year and I do extensive research at every single property, all segments of the database, our slot players, our table customers, and then our competition. So in other words, people who have decided that they're not going to visit us. And we ask them a series of questions in terms of attributes and say, here's 20 things, rank them in terms of what's most important to you, and then rank us on how we deliver it. And it's amazing to me. I started doing this about a decade ago, and I've done it in destination markets and regional markets, asking this question. And generally, when you sit there and say to a person, to a gaming customer, what is most important to you as it relates to your experience, if I were to, in a different setting, if I were to ask you to throw your answers out to me, what I usually get is marketing, slot hold percentage, all the kind of things that basically are, what can I get from this visit? How can I have more fun? What can you give me? But in 10 years of doing this research, destination markets, regional markets, in 10 years, I had the same answer in every single survey, every single one of them. The number one most important thing to our customers is cleanliness. Now, if you think about it, you won't go to a movie theater that's dirty. You won't go to a restaurant that's dirty. You'll certainly not go to a bathroom that's dirty. And so what the customers are saying is, we're going to expect you to basically take care of this first and foremost. And actually, clean, safe, friendly, and fun are the ones that always end up at the top of it. So what we try to do in answer to your question is to make sure we nail that. Make sure that our properties, when you're sitting there and you're actually giving customers what they want from a value proposition perspective, that we're giving them a clean, safe, friendly, and fun experience. And many gaming companies collapsed during the Great Recession. Ours did not. All right, they're massing over there. I think they're about to get the bucket pulling away. So thank you very much.